So many of you that go to school have been trained to do visual arts. You don't learn this part, and so for the rest of your business life, you're going to suffer. So if you're in the business of doing things and selling the doing of things, you may be in trouble and you may be threatened by what is coming if it's not already here. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Hey, if you're having trouble getting clients and making more money, this masterclass is just for you. It's an hour long, and you're not going to miss this video because we go over the 3 most important things you need to know to get more clients and make more money. Sales is change management. You guys are helping someone to go from A to B. What we'll say is their current state, where they are now, to a desired future state, where they'd like to be. You guys understand the game of sales here? So in order for me to make a sales, I need to know where you are, and we'll call this like the benchmark, or the baseline, I'm sorry. We'll call this the baseline, right? Where you are. And where do you like to be? Luckily, it's already a B there. It's the benchmark. How will we measure success? How will we know we got there? And these are very basic concepts that once you master these concepts, your conversations around sales will be much, much easier. But unfortunately, a lot of design institutions, we define our own benchmarks, and so we don't know how to have a conversation about it with anybody else. That's really the challenge here, okay? So many of you that go to school have been trained to do creative visual arts. You don't learn this part, and so for the rest of your business life, you're going to suffer. So we're looking for big problems. Where problems are opportunities to make money. The bigger the problem, the more money you make. So oftentimes we're reluctant to talk about money because money feels gross to us. I'll go over here. Okay? Money feels gross to us because it makes it feel transactional, right? I make you art. I'll try and draw a frame here, like on an easel, for money, and it feels gross to us. But I'll tell you, the thing about money is this. Money is a measurement for the amount of transformation you create. I'll give you an example that we can relate to, I think. The reason why some people who are in this room have agreed to pay $27,000 a semester is because the kind of transformation they see is greater than the amount of money they're going to give up, assuming that you're responsible for spending that money. Or, I'm sorry, assuming that you're responsible for paying back that money. Now, some of us are very fortunate to have very wealthy parents. I don't blame you. It's not your fault that you're rich. It could be worse. That someone else is footing that bill, so you don't even care if you're even getting the value. But assuming that you're responsible for the money that was spent, you have already made the decision it's worth more. If it's worth the same, the decision's harder. If it's worth less, you probably will not buy, unless you were pressured to buy, which in some cases are people in this room. What do I mean by that? Well, you're a loser if you just get out of high school and you don't have a degree. You're a loser if you go to a third-tier art school. So now you're pressured to go to where people believe you should go, and you haven't made this decision that you're getting more value than you're paying. So it's an exchange. So money is nothing more than the scorecard or the metric against the transformation, the positive change you're going to create. So in order to talk about money, we should talk about the transformation. Then now money has context. Okay, so I'll tell you what I mean. If I were the sales and marketing person for a school like this, what I would say, hey, go to Art Center. You're going to graduate in 4 years, and you're going to get a degree in design. How compelling of an offer is that? Not very good. What if I said to you, go to Art Center. I don't even talk about the 4 years. I say you will be a leader in the design industry. You will hold an executive director position, and we find that most of our graduates earn 6 figures plus. They earn 3 times more than their contemporaries that go to a different school. That might be a little bit exciting to you. And then I will then hit you on the emotional front and say, not only that, but we attract the top 1% of creatives in the industry. So your classmates and your teachers are working professionals, the big promise. And you're like, wow, this is feeling pretty good. And by the way, here's evidence of us doing this over and over again. Here's one graduate after the other. And you notice that whenever you go to Art Center or a school like this, how do they attract new customers, new students? The student gallery. So if you walk in and you're like, sucks, dog trash, no good, cliche, you're going to say, we're not going to the school. So that's how they know how to market to you. And there's a lot that you can learn if you just look at that. And you can see where they could be better, and you can see where they're killing it, right? I have this theory about Harvard. Harvard is one of these schools where if you could just tell anybody you went to, it's like, oh my God, you went to Harvard. And they have done something beautiful. And this is another concept I'll share with you, okay? There are way more applicants. There are way more buyers for the Harvard Business School than there are supply, right? So this is the demand, and the supply is a few. So demand is far greater than supply. So we don't know if it's a good school. We just don't. But the percentage of acceptance is very low, and we're like, oh, okay. And then we hear about all the people who've dropped out of Harvard. Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, Tony Hsieh, all billionaires. Like, shoot, they're doing something right. They don't even need to sell you on the program anymore. And so what happens is when you're successful and you have a track record, you don't need to market anymore. When's the last time you saw an ad from Harvard Business School? Do they even need to recruit you at this point? Probably not. And so here's the really interesting thing, I think, about the Harvard bubble, which is they attract the best students, and their genius is they know how to pick them. Their main job is to pick the right students. Because you ask yourself this question, if all these billionaires graduated or dropped out of Harvard, were they great before or after Harvard? My argument is they were great before, because many of them don't even go there very long. And then what Harvard promises is, first of all, status, okay, identity, I went to an Ivy League, and network. That your classmates, your teachers, are probably going to be industry titans. What can we learn from this? And Daniel Priestley describes this as an oversubscribed state. There is greater demand than there is supply, oversubscribed. And you can use this principle also in the marketing of your business. You understand, everybody? Okay. So one thing that we have to do is, if we want to achieve this, we have to be able to create something that generates more interest in what we do than we can physically meet the demand for. And usually that's through something that I'm a big fan of. It's content marketing. And I'll explain this a little bit later, okay? Content marketing. So now there's a lot of interested eyeballs in what you do. Then you have to communicate limited capacity. You see I'm following the Harvard model here? Okay? And then you have to have what we'll call case studies or examples. And case studies is just a fancy word for proof. That I've done this before, I've done it many times, and there's a process that I use to get a certain result. McDonald's genius is not in that they make great hamburgers, it's that they've made it super consistent. It's this much ketchup, that many pickles, and it's made this way so that you don't have a varying experience when you go to McDonald's. Does that make sense? And so the way that you combat that is you have to have systems and processes. And you have to communicate that. There's another Blair Enns line that I remember, which is low variance in process equals low variance in outcomes. Does that make sense? Low variance in process equals low variance in outcomes. And so what clients want to buy from you is the outcome. And the way they understand that is I have a clearly defined process in which all things go through in order for this outcome to happen. So if I have a really defined process, what I'm doing is I'm removing uncertainty. You know when you go to Starbucks, not always, or McDonald's, not always, you will most likely get something that you expect. You go into a no-name place, you're not quite sure the quality of food, the portion size, there's just so much variance. So you could say that they've stripped the humanity out of making this stuff, but what they've done is they've made it better for the customer. Yeah? So we also know that if there's low variance in outcome, you're reducing risk and friction. It makes it easier for people to buy. So I'm just going to poll you guys right now. How many of you have a clearly defined process? Okay, not that many. That's okay. Today is about awareness, highlighting a problem. And the one person who raised their hand, do you communicate that you have a clearly defined process?
Yes.
Okay, so this is very good for you. So you'll have a friction point somewhere else. Okay? Does that make sense? This is why it's important for you to sit down and say, okay, what are the first things we always do to make sure the project is good? Well, there's a diagnostic phase. Then there's a rapid prototyping. And then we do maybe user testing. And then based on that, we go back and we review what works and what doesn't. And then we propose a final model. We prototype one more time. We do a final test. And then we go and build. That's where we're going to go dark for a while, client. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have 2 check-in points. I'm not drawing anything. I'm just pointing to nothing here. Look, my guy's like, what are you doing, bro? I'm like, oh, no, it's nothing. There's got no pen here, okay? Then you'll have an opportunity to do final proofing, copy check, and making sure everything works. And we're going to deliver it. But the project's not done. We just delivered it. And then we're going to stick around for 3 months to do quality assurance, Q&A. Make sure, because something inevitably breaks. We can't cover everything. And then after that, I think you might want to sign up for a maintenance schedule with us for a year. And we're going to give it to you at such a good price, it'd be silly for you to say no. Okay? So when we can communicate our process, we reduce the risk, we give a clear preview of what's going to happen, so we need to do that. When we say we have limited capacity, what I mean is we can only take on so many clients. So if you're the studio owner over here up front, the shy couple, they can only handle so many clients. We all think we can handle 100 clients, but realistically we cannot. So we should say externally that there's a weight for our services, if at all possible. Okay? There's a weight for our services. We can only take on 10 clients a year, and in March, we know there's an opening. So if you'd like to be considered, please get on the wait list. And people who don't even want to buy from you, all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, we need to make a commitment now, just in case we need it. It's the same concept of putting a reservation in for a restaurant that is very popular. So we want to communicate to the outside world. Make sense, everybody? Okay. So that's just a preview here. So, all right, let's get into it. Okay, so we want to be able to get clients, and then the clients that we get should be the right kinds of clients. So the first question is who? Okay? Who? Who are we trying to go after? And this is a big question. It's not an easy one. And it's the lack of commitment to who you want to work with that is the bane of your existence. I think creative people, we're divergent thinkers. We like variety because repetition makes a boy go crazy, you know? It's just nuts, and we don't want to do the same thing over and over. And it's that need for excitement and newness. Some of us have ADHD. Some of us have a lot of FOMO, so it's like every new opportunity is the best opportunity. So we keep chasing things instead of getting really good at doing one thing. And the key to your success is your ability to focus. Focus on everything, like one service, one client, one product, one funnel, one offer. So it's the rule of one. So if you, and here's a great question that came from Hormozi's book, $100 Million Leads. He asked this question. He goes, imagine tomorrow you wake up and all your clients are gone. You have no more clients. And you are going to be able to design your business around one client, and only by servicing that client and the referrals that you get is the rest of your business. Who's that client and what service have you provided to them such that they're happy and enthusiastic to refer you to other people? I think that's a beautiful question to ask. And it's a way for us to prioritize what are we doing. So if you had one client that all your new business is going to come from referrals, what client do you want to work with? This is a very telling thing because many of us are unfortunately just desperate for any kind of client that we become indiscriminate in terms of who we want to work with. And in his book, Ronald J. Baker, Implementing Value Pricing, he goes, one of the biggest problems is we're not discriminating. Not in terms of relationships and being prejudiced, but we're not discriminating, saying we only want to cater to this type of buyer. Okay? So let's ask ourselves, what is the one client in which you're going to build your future business on? Who are they? What sector are they in? And there's some criteria that we need to consider. Because some people say, I love working with nonprofit orphaned children. Well, there's a problem. Number one, are they hungry for your solution? Do they have the capacity to pay you? So we need two things. The desire, so we're going to call it hunger. So are they hungry for a solution? Do they experience enough pain point that it's going to move them from a state of inaction to action? Because anybody who experiences pain knows that the only way they can remedy or solve the pain point is by spending money. We all know this already. Even though we might not know it intellectually, we know it instinctively. You have a headache, what do you have to do? Take a Tylenol. If you have a migraine, you got to go see a doctor. Your car's not working, take it to the mechanic. We know every time we experience some kind of pain, severe enough that we desire a solution, we will spend money for that. The problem is a lot of you are trying to manufacture pain. You come in, and this is horrible, it's a horrible practice, please don't do this. A perfectly good business, you come in and say your logo sucks. Oh, your menu's inconsistent. I noticed the sign above the door and the menu and what's behind you is all different. But they can't service customers fast enough. So you are trying to invent a problem that they experience no pain on, and then you try to climb up this hill, and it's very hard to do, right? It's like you're trying to go in and break up a happy marriage. Shame on you. Shame. Cut to the clip from Game of Thrones. Shame. Shame. Yes. Okay? So they have to be hungry because the pain is so severe, and the pain that they can experience is not on one dimension, it's multidimensional. It's personal, it's professional, it's emotional, it's financial. So you can see the more pain that they experience in different dimensions, the more they're going to seek a solution for this. And I'll tell you the most common pain in life and as it relates to entrepreneurship, and you'll understand why. So they have to also have the capacity to pay you. And there has to be enough of them. So there's a fresh supply of new clients all the time. Okay? I think in his book, $100 Million Offers, same person, Alex Ramosi, it's like offers and leads. He said that you might do something beautiful like editorial design for magazines and newspapers. And they want a solution, but the problem is that industry is going down. So the capacity to pay, okay, they want it, sort of, but they're losing ad revenue, you know that. Every magazine you read now is thinner and thinner, there's almost no ads in them anymore. Is that there's not a fresh supply of new clients. That's the problem. So if we can understand this, you know, there's a hunger and a pain, they're existing on a multidimensional graph, their capacity to pay is good, and there's a fresh supply of them, then we know that we have somebody. The problem is, many of you want to run a charity and not a business. You just don't tell yourself that. You're willing to subsidize these projects for people who can't pay so that you can starve with them. I don't understand that, because you also must like pain, but I don't. So that's the first decision. So let's try to understand this now. Let's apply it in your life and your business. So all of us would like more clients. So we're going to begin the exercise. What client is that? So Mark, you're here. You want more web projects, right? Mm-hmm. Who is going to be your web client?
It would be health, like alternative health industry.
Why does that matter to you?
Because it reflects my own personal values.
Okay.
That the medical system is limited.
Okay.
What I can do.
So your dream client, and we're going to use that word dream client, is alternative health?
That would be the canopy. I mean,
that's fine.
Industry.
Okay.
So.
Thought you said cannabis for a second. Alternative health. Okay. No. That's where my mind was. Alternative health medicine or something? Healthcare?
I just don't know if they have the money, but.
Almost all healthcare has money.
Okay.
You know why? Because I'll die if I don't use it. Anything that solves that kind of problem usually has a lot of money. Like the EpiPen. You guys know the whole disaster fiasco with the EpiPen, right? Horrific. My child will die if he doesn't have the EpiPen, so they're going to charge $100 a shot. And they can charge $1,000 a shot. I still have to buy it. I don't really have a choice. Okay? There's one other thing that I want to introduce to you as a new observation I had, so we'll tap into like what's been on my mind. When the person who pays is not the person that needs it, there's an amazing market there. I'll tell you what I mean, okay? So let me try to explain this, okay? When the person who whips out the credit card, who signs a check, is not the person who receives it, it's much easier to sell to. okay? Right now, most of you are students. You're not really paying for this because you have no money. Your parents are footing some percentage of this bill, if not all of it. For some of you, not all of you, okay? And I'll give you the story, okay? My son, he was going to a very good private school to study writing. Very good school. But he wanted to get into Ivy League school, and he didn't when he graduated high school. So he calls me up and he says, Dad, I need to consult with expert essay people for Ivy League schools. And I said, well, why? Because I want to get in. It really matters to me. I said, well, how much is it? He's like, it's $10,000. I'm like, $10,000? Boy, you need to work harder. Like, that school is pretty good. What do you need to get? He goes, Dad, I'm like, have you done your due diligence? He goes, yes, I've talked to a lot of people, which means like he looked on the internet. I'm sure of it. And then I asked my wife, what should we do? And she goes, I don't know, I'm really torn. I'm like, I'm thinking school of hard knocks. You got to earn your way through life. Who cares? Go to community college. I don't care. And she goes, but are we being bad parents? I'm like, maybe. She goes, we have the money. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't buy that computer. I'm going to get this for him. It's 10 grand. What if it doesn't work? So I was telling her, I think we need to make a deal with him. If it works, we pay. If it doesn't work, you pay. You pay. I never said it to him. I just said it to myself. I'm like, fine. And I spent the money. It's nothing to him. And now it's playing on my guilt and my obligation and wanting the best for my children. Fudge, I'm going to pay it. Better get in that school. Thank God he got into school. So I'm like, okay, it all worked out just fine. But it made me aware of something, okay? I'm going to tell you the second example so you really understand what I'm talking about. Second example is this. I go to a YouTube education conference. It's called EduCon, and it's in New York, and there's just a bunch of educators that are on YouTube. I'm talking to these Japanese guys, and they seem so like light, meaning like they're like walking on air. What I imagine what it's like to be Prince when you walk in a room, the artist formerly known as or whatever, okay? And I asked him like, what do you do? He goes, and very sheepishly, he said, I teach English. And I was talking to him like, your English is not even that good. You have an accent, bro, and you're teaching English? He goes, yeah, on YouTube. And he explains to me what he's doing, right? And you know how much money he's making as a YouTuber? A year? Stupid amount of money. $10 million. And they say education doesn't pay. And teaching something really boring. I'm like, how's this possible? He said, I've used the money that I've made to buy schools. And I publish my own books. And the books alone sell for $1 million a year. So he's created like a little monopoly. He brings people in through the YouTube channel. They enroll in his program, so they buy courses. He buys physical brick and mortar schools. And then guess what? You have to buy my books to be able to do this. What an incredible empire he's building. And I thought to myself, who the heck is paying for this stuff? He says his average customer pays 10 grand. There's that number again. Like, what kid can pay that? No kid can pay that. Freaking parents again. When someone else pays for the thing that isn't the consumer, it's easy to sell. Last example I'm going to give you, right? Matthew comes to me. Matthew's one of my former creative directors, no longer working with us. He's like, hey, Chris, I saw this program on how to launch courses and how to design courses. I think we should buy this. When he says we, he means me. So he goes, yeah, it was really good. She's an amazing teacher. I'm like, okay, 3 grand, write the check. You see, if you can market to the ultimate buyer of something that's not the end customer, it's much easier to sell. We have a huge problem at the Futur. We sell to the end buyer, and they're all broke. That's why we're not doing $10 million a year. I had to figure out how to solve that problem. Right? So let's get back to this. Your dream client is an alternative healthcare company. If you can understand who's really buying it, market it to them, because we can be more generous for others than we can to ourselves. That's the real concept there. We're more generous to others than we are to ourselves. So if you sell massage packages, don't sell to the person, sell to their wives, their husbands, their parents, their siblings, their children. Sell to them. Give the gift of healing versus buy the gift of healing for yourself. Because it turns out money can buy happiness. Money can buy happiness when you give it away. They've done studies on this, right? I give you $10, you go spend it, the happiness goes away really fast. But if I give you $10 with the rule that you must give it to someone else, you get way more joy. So every time you spend that $10 to buy the same thing, your joy decreases over time. But every time you give $10, the joy, if anything, it either is the same or it grows. Okay, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, just had a question when you said market to the person who's buying it, but
Potentially, if you can.
if you can, but in the two examples you gave, the person came to you, so you paid. So your employee or your creative director, he knew about it somehow. He got marketed,
Yeah.
and then you paid.
Yeah.
Same your kid, right?
Yeah.
So maybe can you market to the person who's benefiting from it?
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah.
So Johnny Cupcakes, he wants to do these workshops, and they're kind of pricey. He goes, convince your employer.
Yeah, that part.
So he understands that. He's leapfrogging, right? So we have a couple different scenarios here. So there's Johnny, okay? Johnny wears a hat, and then there's a buyer, and he's talking to the buyer. They have a relationship, but the buyer has no money. So what he does is like, I'll give you materials so that you can then convince the person who spends the money. Here's the bank. I should draw a pig. No, that's a horrible pig, but you guys get it. It needs to be a little rounder. Okay, there we go. Okay, that's how it goes. So you can think about that. So even in creative services, the person who makes the decision is not the one who writes the check. It's the CEO who writes the check, the CFO, but the chief marketing officer is the person you need to convince. So you have to give them materials or an argument as to why we need to work with Mark or Mary or Kate, whoever it is. That's what we need to do. If you can tap into that, this is a very compelling way to sell. I currently do not sell this way. It's an observation I've made recently. That's what's on my mind. It's much easier to sell. And you know what? They never ask for a refund. Because there's a disconnect between the person who sold and the person who received the goods. They're like, it wasn't all that I thought, but it wasn't my money. I didn't even care.
And they don't want to go back to the person who paid.
Yeah, because I'm telling you right now, as a boss, I sign checks, not all the time, but sometimes when people ask me to learn something, enroll in a program, and I always think, what did you learn? You've changed nothing. You've changed nothing. You haven't changed. The company has not made more money. I can't get my money back. But if I bought it, hey, customer support, hey, what's going on? Yeah, I didn't really get what I wanted. I want a refund. Okay? It's a powerful concept. Probably nothing you've heard at Art Center, right? It's like, you got to sell to this other person. If you can, you'll do really well. But not everything is that easy. It's not that linear. So I sell to people. So I say, come to my workshop. I've yet to do one where convince your boss to send you to this thing, and here are the benefits. And so he's brilliant. Johnny is a brilliant marketer. Okay, so you have a dream client, and are they hungry? Are they in pain? Do they experience pain in multi-dimensions? Do they have the capacity to pay, and is there a fresh supply? I believe yes to most of these things. We have a question about capacity to pay. Okay? How big are these companies? What is their annual revenue? What do you think?
Depends on who the company is. If it's a large, a relatively large company that, let's say, does an app on like behavioral wellness, they could have a fair amount of money. I mean, they're not going to be pharmaceutical, but they're going to be, they're going to be pretty decent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, almost everybody that needs to make an app knows there's money involved. We can't make apps for free. So you have that working for you versus like, hey, can you just take a picture,
Yeah.
It's like everybody can take a picture, right? Well, I don't know anybody that makes an app, so yeah. People who make apps, there's already kind of money involved in that process already. So I think they're probably either startups, if they want an app, or they're established companies that need to kind of either launch a new product or reinvent themselves.
I mean, if they're a startup company, my experience is that they're trying to get investors.
Yes?
And so they may not have that much budget for, let's say, websites or things like that, things that are peripheral.
They might not.
Yeah.
So then you have to put conditions on the alternative healthcare company. They cannot be startups.
Okay.
They have to be established or funded or seeded or whatever they call that, or Series B or C. That's who you need to work with. So there's a friend of mine, he does branding work. He goes, I don't do branding work. I only do rebrands. A rebrand suggests you've run a business, you know how your business works, and you need help making it better versus I just started. Okay? I am generally allergic to two types of clients. Artists, because you have an unhealthy relationship with money. I have a healthy one, so we're not going to get along. And two, startups, because they don't have any business experience. Okay? They also have an unhealthy relationship with money. There's a friend of mine, his name is Sean Cannell. He runs this YouTube channel. and called Think Media, and he said, scared money don't make money. And there's a lot of scared money out there. You know, when Alex Ramosi tells his story on stage, he said his wife, they're making a ton of money at this point, gave him a birthday present, a $100,000 coaching package with Grant Cardone. It's for 3 calls. And I'm sitting there in the audience, mind blown, like, oh my God. First of all, birthday present? I don't get a card. Like, my kids go, Dad, it's your birthday? I'm like, yeah. I did bring you into this world. I did raise you. People are giving away $100,000 gifts to their partners. I'm like, dang. I got like a bag of pistachios. This, okay, there's news, 100 grand. And then he says, I've only done 1 call. Already paid for itself. On what scale do you have to operate where you spend 100 grand and you already made more money? Scared money don't make money. That's how the rich keep getting richer. They don't have that same relationship with money. They just spend it because they know it makes them more efficient. They buy back their time. They can focus on the bigger things. So you want clients who internalize that mantra, scared money don't make money. And I want to make money, so I'm going to spend it. So the way that venture capital works, generally speaking, is like 1 in 10 of their ventures are going to work, or investments, I'm sorry. 9 out of 10 are going to fail, and they're totally okay because the one that works makes 100 to 1. Okay? It's like Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a perfect example. Super volatile, but I know a guy who I think bought like 500 tokens of Bitcoin back in the day. He has $4 million or something, or more than that actually. It's crazy. But it's super risky back then. But he was willing to take that risk. Okay, so your dream client is alternative healthcare, established, growing, funded, something like that. Okay? And then now you have to get into it, like what kind of things are they trying to get done? Okay? So they need, we put conditions on them. They're established, funded, growing, launching new products, right? But we're going to stay away from startups. People argue with me on this all the time. They don't literally argue with me. They argue with me by doing the opposite of what I tell them to do. So they're like, I love startups. I'm like, you love being broke.
The only problem with that, from my perspective, is that companies that are already in the position that you like already have websites.
That's right. So you have to break up a happy marriage.
Break up a happy marriage,
Yeah, you do.
rebrand and look at, try to find, without insulting them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember how I told you that almost all companies have one problem? What problem do you think they have? What's the one problem all companies have? It's on the board.
They want to make more money.
Yes, how?
More clients.
More clients? Yeah. So they have a growth and scale problem. They have the exact same problem you have. So when you understand your business, you understand their business. So I don't know any client where you would call them up. It's like, would you like more clients? No. Do you need help with scaling your team? No. Because they're on the decline. Okay, so things like recruitment, delegation, all those things up on, this is kind of like the blueprint of what they need. What you need is what they need. Oh, they need a plan on how to create content and publish it consistently on social media? Damn, that's my same problem. Oh, the founder of the company has no personal brand. No one knows who they are. It's the same problem. Isn't it strange? Oh, they don't know how to tell stories and do public speaking? Oh, they're the same problem. They literally have the same problem as you, because we're in the space of running a business. So businesses have business problems, and if you run a business, you have a business problem.
Or it's retention, keeping the clients.
Yes. Well, let's go into another topic here that's related to this then, Mark. How can a company make money? There's only a couple things that companies can do to make money. So, how to make money? Okay. More money. Okay. Let's go through it one idea at a time. Okay, go ahead. Sell more. Okay. So more customers, right?
More value.
You guys understand? Wait, slow down. Yes, it's true, yes. More customers, right? So if we have 100 customers, if we get 200 customers, we've just 2x'd.
Margins.
Well, tell me, just keep it real basic. What do you mean margins?
Raise prices.
Yes. Higher price. So Look at this here. There is some math. Hormozy does this kind of math. It makes my head hurt, okay? So right now, if we have 100 clients, okay? We have 100 clients, and the average lifetime customer value is like $1,000, okay? Let's just say $10. It's a lot easier for me to calculate. Yeah. I'm mostly Asian, okay? So if you have 100 clients and you make $10 lifetime customer value or annual, okay? And what we can do is we can just add a zero, right? So we have $1,000. You can't retire on that. So if we double this by 2, we have 200 clients now, same average value per customer, okay? Now we have $2,000. What is our net margin on this? Do you guys know what I say when I say net margin? What is our profitability? So let's say that for easy numbers, for every $10 that we sell, we make 50 cents. We make 50% margins, okay, which is very high actually. Okay, so of the $1,000, we get to keep net, and this is very important, we get to net half of that, which is 500. Okay, we're getting a little wonky. This is like all the designers go to sleep and people skip this part of the video. But you guys need to pay attention. Okay, this is net and this is gross. This is gross revenue. This is net margins, okay? So if we are able to gross double the amount using the exact same systems and processes, theoretically, we would make the same percentage, half of that. There's some economies of scale, so usually we can make a little bit more, not always, but let's just go with that. So now we can make 1K, okay? Let's say now we have the same number of customers, but we just charge twice as much. So now we're going to charge $20. What is our net margins on $20? What do you think it is? Did it cost us twice as much to charge twice as much? No. So if we say it costs us $5 to do this, our net margin is now 75. So it's 75%. Is everybody understanding this? They're like, dude, I'm at art school right now. What are you doing? I'll draw a graph for you later, okay? I won't. So then we're going to have gross revenue of 2,000, right? 2,000, keep my math here. People, the internet's getting mad at me when I don't do the math right. But we get to keep how much? 75%. It's 1,500? Okay. Thank you for somebody doing the math for me. I was like, brain not computing. Okay. So if you had your choice between doubling your clients or doubling your price, which one would you choose? If you say double your clients, I'm going to kill you. But people do. I don't know why. Like, I want more clients. I'm like, okay. So we can do that, right? So we can charge a higher price. So we'll make more money. So far, that's the better option of the two. We can then do something else. How else can we make more money?
Be more efficient, lower your
Yes,
costs.
reduce costs, right? Reduce costs. That's usually what cost consultants and accountants like to do. They want to cut your staff. They want to make it more efficient. Okay, so if you can reduce your cost, you'll make a little bit more money. But you won't grow your customer base. So if I had to choose between any of these, and is there anything else that we can do? We can reduce costs by making it more efficient, automation, AI, pay people less, offshore the work, a lot of the things that we can do that are not that popular here. So in terms of ways to make more money, which is the number one thing that we should do? Raise your price. What's the number two thing you should do?
Reduce costs.
You should get more customers. Reducing costs will make you more efficient, but it won't grow your customer base. We want to grow our customers, okay? So we prioritize innovation over efficiency, almost always. You guys are innovative people, okay? So innovation over efficiency. These two things cannot exist in the same world. You cannot be an innovative, efficient company. It just doesn't work. Because innovation is messy, wastes money. And now you know why. That's the opposite. So this is saving money, okay? These are diametrically opposed concepts. So when clients say we want to be innovative, then you know they don't want to save money. We're going to try stuff. We're going to add features that may not work. We're testing things all the time. So companies like Instagram and Facebook, you notice, maybe less Facebook, more Instagram, they'll try new features, new algorithmic things, and they're wasting money all over the place. They'll roll out for specific regions, and then you'll never find out about it, and then they kill those initiatives. because they need to be innovative, because otherwise they'll fall behind, like with TikTok, okay? So that's how they make more money. So when you talk to your clients, okay, you can offer them any one of these three things, and they may prioritize them differently. So an app is going to help them reduce costs, potentially gain more customers. And if it's a really good app, maybe there are things that can be bundled in, premium features that can be made for more money that you can buy for a higher price. You can actually hit all three. That's pretty compelling to me as a buyer of services. Not only are you helping me with one, you're helping me with all three. That is the beauty of software. Is that how you sell?
Is that how I sell?
Yeah. Is that how you sell to your clients?
Like right now?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, that's what I thought. You give me that look like, no, bro. Yeah. Yeah. You understand, yeah? Okay. So that's what we're trying to do here, okay? So we have to answer the question of who. We follow this criteria, and we kind of think a little bit about how we can help them, and almost all companies want to make more money. A few companies don't want to make more money, and that's fine. And those companies want to grow an audience or grow their customer base. So I don't know the exact stat on this, but Amazon ran for over a decade while losing money every single day of the week. And then all of a sudden they become the world's most valuable company, or he becomes the richest person on earth for a period. It's because they were playing some really long game. I was on the phone, I interviewed the CEO of Circle, and they're on track to do like $20 or $30 million this year. They're still running in the red. And you're like, 30 million, you're still, yes, because it costs a lot to do this, but they want to be the juggernaut. They want to be the de facto standard, at which point they'll make all the kind of money because they destroyed everybody. Okay? Does that make sense, everybody? Some people actually want to build an audience, but they have venture capital, and they just keep raising more money. That's what they do. So sometimes it's not to make more money. Sometimes it's to build customer base.
Now, are investors typically, they're savvy on all this, what you're saying?
100%.
Okay.
This is child's play for them. This little baby math, they've already been doing this, like on the drive over. They already know all this stuff. Yeah. The reason why they get to be investors is they're very good with math. They understand. It's just a numbers thing. They don't care about the little things like, oh, is it a pretty office, or is the design nice? Are we going to make money or not? Can I see the business model? How does this play out? That's why they get all this money. They raise so much money because they're invested in this. And they think they're going to 100x their investment. It's usually the kind of scale that they're looking at. 100x. It is crazy. So what you want to do in your life is to grow a business so that you can make money so that you can become an investor. I'm not even joking around. I interviewed Gary Vaynerchuk. I said, what is the best investment you made? He's like, Twitter, this, and that. I'm like, how much you get out? He says, a lot. He didn't say. We can just assume 100x. I think 20 million.
I went to a marketing conference 3 weeks ago, and my buddy, he runs an agency that now has 150 employees, and he's only started in 2020. And just to give context to people in the room that are running creative services. So I was like, how the hell do you do it, man? 100 people, and he's like on track to do 50 million next year. He's like, I acquire smaller studios that don't want to do this work, right? But are really good at the delivery work. So, but still have their own client base, have their own, you guys said it at the beginning, what's your process to outcome, right? So just like he's saying, there's investors, you can become an investor. I realized 5 years into my business that I didn't really want to run the business. So I found partners to then go into another business with. So you could be thinking, now knowing this, could I run a studio or a shop, build out a good process, get good client base, understand, and then find a bigger business to then inject myself into, where I'm not having to do lead gen, I'm not having to do sales, but I can do what I love to do, get paid, and still be part owner in the equity side. Just something to think about, because I didn't know about it until he said it, and he's only been 3 years in the business, so just an option.
Okay, I'm going to spend one more minute on this, and then we're going to go to number 2. We've only covered step 1, and your minds are already melted right now. Let's go into it. So we want to kind of poke at the pain. If we can find the pain point, we can market to it, we can speak to it, we can tell stories, we can create content that addresses the pain. Currently, right now, if you don't understand what they experience in pain, the kind of content, the content marketing, the lead magnets that you create aren't connected to their pain, so it's a totally disassociated thing, you're not going to really get them as clients. Okay? So to my friend, what is your name, the British guy? What? Angel. Angel is like, he's going to create content, but if he doesn't understand their pain point, he's going to attract the wrong kind of person. That's the problem, okay? And I recently interviewed somebody. His name is Noah Kagan, and he runs a company called AppSumo, okay? It's very successful. Noah Kagan. You know Noah? No. Okay. Noah Kagan. Yeah. I interviewed him. He shared something with me that's awesome. He says, everybody here can start a business and make $1 million in a weekend. That's what his book is called. It's called $1 Million Weekend. And he goes, let me take you through some of the concepts, okay? He gives me 3 things to think about, and I'll share them with you, okay? He goes, look at what you do on a daily basis. What is it that you're doing? Your tasks, okay? And he goes, just log everything you do. You get up at this time and just log everything you do. And find anything that creates friction in your life. Anything that frustrates you. Anything that creates a challenge for you. And just spitball ideas on how to solve those things. Because there's a good chance someone else, when I say someone else, a lot of other people have the exact same problem. Solve that problem. So he asked me, tell me what you've done this morning prior to us getting on the call. And I tell him, so I didn't get up on time this morning because I had a late night, and then I had to skip breakfast, so I'm hungry, and I'm just going through the list. And he goes, okay, so just from the brief conversation, and the podcast will drop soon, maybe there's an energy subscription, or energy bar, protein bar, food delivery service, and maybe there's some kind of app that I can create for you to help you like wind down at night so you can get a better night's sleep. Maybe I can monitor your sleep so you have more energy. So he's just spitballing ideas left and right. That's how his brain works. If I solve that problem, I'm going to be rich. Go ahead.
Can I just add one thing to this too? I think that really works well with this is there's a book called Disrupt You.
Disrupt You? I have that
right?
book.
Yeah, and I think that book is like perfect for going through your daily life and thinking of where you could disrupt something, and it pairs well with what you're talking about here.
Okay, so there's a book recommendation called Disrupt You.
To solve it is Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits. Okay, I won't write all the books up on there. Atomic Habits, $100 million or $1 Million Weekend. Okay, so what it is you're doing, the tasks that you're doing, and wherever you find pain, see if you can solve that. Okay. The second thing he said is look at your credit card. This one was kind of like, what? Look at your credit card bill. Okay, it's going to itemize everything that you're spending money on. Anything that you think you overpaid, that underdelivered, that's an opportunity for you to do better.
That's kind of brilliant, actually.
He's rich for a reason.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Just look at that. He's like, oh, I subscribe to this, and I pay a $20 service fee every month, and I think that's stupid. It should be $5. He created another company. Now they do that. So he has business units that are just designed on whatever harebrained idea he has. He's like, make it. And they just make it. He makes even more money.
Wow.
Look at your credit card debt. The last one is my favorite, which I shared with my guys here, right, is avoidance. I think this one's a big unlock for me, which is what are the things that you're trying to avoid doing? It's a clue, okay? What kind of outcomes are you trying to avoid? Negative outcomes. So things that you avoid doing, and then outcomes, okay? So doing, and then outcomes. What kind of outcomes are you trying to avoid? What kinds of things are you trying to avoid to do? These are brilliant business opportunities for you. Now, you're not going to solve your own problem. You're going to solve someone else's problem. So we can use the little UX principles here. We can imagine and build a customer buyer persona based on who we want. So whoever is your buyer, you put on your thinking cap, or you ask GPT 4.0, this is who I'm trying to target, someone in alternative healthcare. They're established, funded, and they're either launching this or rebranding something. You know, they're doing $50 million annually plus. They're in the United States. I want you to create a typical day and give me what they're doing, morning to night. Detailed list, please. I'm giving you the AI prompt right now, okay? I want you to imagine the kinds of services they buy on a monthly basis and detail that out for me, please. You don't have to say please. I'd like to do it in case the robots remember who you are later. You were kind.
There's a study that said those that say are kind and more like saying please,
Yeah.
they get more accurate.
Really?
And more productive, yeah.
How's that?
They did, I don't know if they did a chat.
I'm just doing it so my new future robot master will, like, we're gonna put We're going to have you in the management, not in the factory. Yeah, that's all, okay? And then the avoidance. Ask them, based on that user buyer persona, what are they trying to avoid doing that gives them pain? They want done, but they just won't do. And what kind of negative outcomes are they trying to avoid?
Could you do me a favor? Can you put the word persona, juxtaposition all that so that
So you remember this? There's a couple of words that you can use. User, persona. You can use buyer, profile, or customer. They all work. Okay? Depending. If this is the end customer, then use the word customer. But for you, it'll be user persona because it's like an executive somewhere. Okay? Yeah, use those words. We're going to be going deep into giving you the scripts, and you're going to do that work. I'm not that good at it, but I'm better than most of you. I'm not Katagi level, but I know I'm better than you because I practice communicating. And I don't want to get into it. I'll get into it. I twist my arm. Yeah. I have used GPT and versions of GPT, some are trained on my own thinking, to build full-on workshops for me. It is bananas. It is insane. All you have to do is to say, is it possible? And then try. Okay? So I've done this before. I would tell them, and you have to give it quality input. There's an input-output here, right? I say, here's who I am. Here's a workshop I'm running in this country. This is what I'm charging. I'm focused on mostly this market with these learning outcomes. Tell me the top 3 things that they want to know, pain points and challenges that they would feel grateful to have, and they would be happy to pay in orders of magnitude more than what the workshop costs. It will tell me. And I say, based on that, design me 3 typical user personas of someone who's most likely to attend. And it gives me that. And the first time I did this was about almost a year ago. And I asked people, who's here? And then I'm like, and then I said, this is what GPT told me. And you're here, and you're here. What do you guys want to learn? And they tell me, and we go through this whole process. And then I flip up the slide. Those are the 3 things I wanted to learn the most. It is insane. Okay? Now I say, help me design a workshop with this kind of thing, with this opening thing, and ask a lot of questions that get the audience to think. And it designs it for me. It's not great, but it's pretty good. And what's good about it is it makes me think. And now I have a relatively low-cost brainstorming partner that is vastly more intelligent than I am. We're talking about like on levels smarter than Einstein for $10 a month. We're living in a beautiful time. This is the time before they take over. Enjoy it. Okay, there's almost nothing that you can't ask it to do that it won't do for you that it's just like, oh my God. So I have it reverse engineering sales pages that I like to build a framework and then to generate prompts so that I can give it to my coaching community that once answered can be shoved back into the prompt to generate a sales page based on what I like. How wild is that? And then I give them the prompt. I say to the computer, write the prompt that you need to see in order for you to do this. And it writes it. It is bananas. B-A, no, okay.
Are there specific sources besides ChatGPT that you think are beneficial?
Sources like what?
Like other
Alternative.
websites, things like that are like ChatGPT that aren't ChatGPT?
There's Bard. There's a bunch of new things that are getting online. There's Microsoft's new thing, which is, I think, built on GPT, but unlocked. It's a little scary, okay? There's a bunch, Claude. I thought I mentioned that. Which is the one where you can draw a little like circle and say it's a cat? I have that one now. Somebody just gave me access to it. I'm like, this is amazing. Have you seen this? Have you seen these demos, everybody? All you visual artists, you're out of jobs. Unless you adapt, okay? This is how crazy it is. Give me a cat at night, and you draw something like this. And then it draws it for you. And then you raise the paw, it raises the paw. It is insane what can be done now. And with Runway, you can now take prompts and images and animate them. So for like trailer kinds of videos, pretty good. Pretty good. You just highlight areas and you say, move this, and it just figures it out. And you know, there were these guys, Corridor Crew, who made an animated film based on green screen footage, and they had to invent all these hacks to kind of keep it semi-consistent so it looks like Japanese anime. You don't even need to do that anymore. It's consistent without you training it now. It's bananas. It's like not even 6 months. So the best way to keep in touch and up to date is to be around people who are using the technology. You would just say, I didn't know you could do that. And because they're showing you. Then you use your brain and connect it to what you're doing. But right now, all of you, let's just call us like level 1. GPT-4 is more than what you need. Just stay with that. Okay? I think somebody was telling me the next wave of AI is multimodal, meaning you can use text to generate text, video, animation, and editing all in one. That's where it's going. So they're stacking the technologies together. It's already happening. Okay? It's wicked. I love it. Okay? It may be the undoing of mankind, but I love it right now. Okay. Step number 2, okay? So you all understand this? So now you know who. Once you know who, this becomes much easier, right? If you don't know who, this doesn't work. You don't know what to tell GPT. That's why this is the hardest thing. It's the what Blair calls the difficult business decision. Who do you serve? What do you do? Guess what? That happens to be number 2. What? What do you do? And what is harder than you think? And then you can probably guess number 3 is why. Why does it matter? Who do you serve? What do you do? And why does it matter? Those questions are connected, clearly. Because what you do and why it matters, you can't answer why unless you know who. If you know who and what, but not why, it probably doesn't matter. And there's the disconnect. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Creative people are usually afflicted with this disease. I'll use that word disease, in that you have a worldview of what you do, and you bend facts, data, and trends to suit what you do. Don't do it this way. I'll tell it to you, but you'll still do it. Look at the data. Let that guide what your solution is. Okay? You might like to make sweaters, knit sweaters. And you're like, this is what the world needs. I saw enough grandmas today, they want this thing. And none of the data trends that way. You can look at all the sales data and you're like, no, they want this. And so you drive yourself into misery, into poverty. Rather than that, just look at what people are doing, what they need today, anticipate what they might need tomorrow, and solve that problem. Don't go the other way. So this is how this works. It's like magical thinking. I believe this. Therefore, everything I'm seeing matches to this belief. You've come to the conclusion before you look at the data. It's like arriving on the scene of a crime and saying, oh, it's a butler with a candlestick. How would you even know that? You're blinded by your bias. Kevin?
Where would the fishing holes be for the data, though?
Where's what?
The fishing holes for the data. So where would you go to look at the data, like sources and stuff?
Well, you have to say, I have a lot of cognitive biases and prejudices based on my life experience. First, just tell yourself, I have a problem. So just by saying I have a problem, you become much more aware when you're like using that filter, okay? And so if we get into this practice of critical thinking, of saying what data supports this, so it's a very simple trick that you can do. Okay, Kevin? We're getting a little bit off track here, but I'll try to do this real quick, okay? What data is for or against what it is that I believe? And you must do both in earnest. Okay? So you know this. Anybody reading the data comes to conclusions based on their own biases. Always. So then you go reverse. You play it against itself. So if I think, and I'll use this when we have an opportunity because we're talking about this in the abstract. Okay? I'll tell you what therapists do, and I learned this through GPT. I asked what frameworks do therapists who use cognitive behavioral therapy use to be able to help their clients achieve success. We live in a wild time right now. And here's what they said. Okay, each and every one of you has a belief. All of you have a belief, right? Like, I'm afraid of heights. Let's say I'm afraid of heights, okay? I used to have that fear. And then you say, well, retrace back into your life and the first memory you have of when that became apparent to you. It's almost always at a very young age. What story did you tell yourself? Okay? Who was around you? You start to go back into time and understand where this belief comes from. It's usually a fear or something that's holding you back. Positive things, don't worry, just keep going. It's all the negative stuff. You go back in time and it says, okay, what, as an adult now looking back on that, what data, facts support this belief? You first believe in your own beliefs. It says, now, based on all the evidence that you have, try to argue against it, and you just look at the list, right? I have a cousin who is afraid of dogs, was afraid of dogs for most of her life. And any dog, she would just cry and even sometimes lose control of her body. It's because somewhere in her life, a dog scared her and she can't shake that. But then you list the reasons as to why you shouldn't be afraid of dogs. It's deep. So then we ask ourselves the last question, and it's the final question, is, based on our worldview, which are we more aligned with? That's it. So that's how you start to become more critical thinking and checking with your biases. Almost everybody comes in saying, hey, I believe this, therefore all the data, you just look at data very selectively and you support your own argument or your own belief. Okay, let's get into it. So what do you do? What do you do? Mo and I, we were just talking this with Chris Franklin about this right before we got here, so we can get into this, okay? What do you do, okay? And I'm going to give you maybe I'd come up with a different example instead of the one we just did.
I say we keep working that example, so when we make
You like that example?
tomorrow,
Okay,
it's just
it'll just be
pristine,
easy.
you know?
Okay, very good. Okay, there are a couple of industries that are very challenging to work in today, okay? And you can see it reflected in the curriculum and the majors that we have at Art Center, okay? One of which is photography. Okay, there's no coincidence that the design or communications program is the largest at Art Center now, right? It's one of the largest. And photography is probably shrinking, if not relevant anymore. It becomes very tricky. And photography has gone through massive disruptions that we have not adapted to. So let's all make ourselves now photographers. Okay? Sorry. I'm looking at The Walking Dead right now, so I'm just going to last rites, okay? Sorry, photographers. Okay, if you sell photography, you know something is happening. Even though there's a greater demand for visual images, the pay for photography is dropping. We know that. Why? Why did that happen? So we'll look back before we look forward, okay? Why is it harder to be a photographer today than before? What are the reasons? I'm going to color this in red because it's going to be bloody.
Like abundance.
What do you mean?
There's so, like, everyone has a camera, everyone has ability.
Okay. There's, basically, you're combating this problem. Everyone's a photographer because we all have what? A phone. I'll just say iPhone.
Yeah, but he has a better camera there, that guy.
Better? It's questionable. We'll get into that, okay? It's a more expensive camera for sure, okay? So everyone's a photographer. So what happened is the barrier to entry to become a photographer has pretty much disappeared. We understand that, right? First, it was the digital sensor. It was pretty crappy for a really long time. And then it got really good, really fast. Canon 5D Mark I, beautiful DSLR, shoots videos. It changed the game. Changed the game in so many different ways. It's the first consumer level camera that's affordable that can produce cinematic quality images. It was a game changer, okay? So there is now less differentiation between one photographer and another. The barrier to entry is gone. You remember when you had to buy film, process it in a lab, and then print it and do all this kind of stuff? Very expensive, okay? It's coupled with a couple other things, some trends that are happening. It's called the good enough revolution, that we care less and less about quality. And we're all guilty of this, in case you those heathens. You do it too, I do it too. And I'll tell you right now, to enter proof into the court of public opinion. How many of you buy LPs, CD-ROMs, CDs? How many of you guys will then stream music? Almost all of us. The MP3, inarguably, right, is inferior in terms of its sonic quality and fidelity to an LP. Analog wavelength versus bit compressed, right? And MP3s are even worse than that. Heavy, heavy compression. But we choose that because of convenience. We choose it because of portability and all those kinds of things that we love about MP3s. We can share them illegally. Have access to them everywhere we go in the cloud. And now we're moving into another trend, which is the trend towards dematerialization. We pay more to own fewer things. It's a really strange concept. As a Gen Xer, I had a problem with that. My kids, they don't know about anything about ownership. They don't even have a car. They don't want to learn how to drive. That's the way of the world. So we can swim towards it, swim with the tide, or we can swim against it. So we have a lot of problems. Undifferentiated, the proliferation of a lot of competition, the erosion of quality or perception of quality. And to a few photographers, they can tell a superior image. Most people can't, okay? And what's interesting is Apple's sensor is not as good as that Sony, not even close. But Apple runs a lot of software to make a lot of predictions as to what you want and what you care about. It's good enough, okay? So when you try to sell photos, it's really difficult, okay? So now let's say you're a photographer and you have a market. What is the market that buys photographs, everybody? Family portraits. For who, more specifically?
For families.
Not just any family. Have you had a family portrait done? Who here has had a family portrait done? Only the rich people. Only the rich OC people. Yeah. Upper crust. I mean, you see those photos? Like, they're in white outfits at the beach underneath the pier. I'm like, what the fudge? Who's doing this? Me, it's like, boys, get it. Okay. No. That's it. I ain't got these photos. So you have, basically, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm just being real with you, right? And if you disagree with me, argue with me. Because I like to put things into neat boxes so you can understand. Here's who I think buys photos. Sentimental rich people. You have to be sentimental, otherwise you don't buy photos at all. And you have to have means to do this, right? You know, I have a friend who shoots a lot of family portraits. I'm just going to put it out there. They're almost all white. You don't see a lot of people of color. You don't see a lot of Asians. True? True or false? True. Maybe. It's usually white. Because I look at all her feed, I'm like,
I'm in Orange County, so true.
sure, you know. Verifiably true. Fact. Facts, okay? All right, usually that. Okay, so then we have portraits, right? That's who buys those things. So if you are in a certain community, you have to like, you know what? Go to Orange County. That's where my market is. They have a lot of disposable income. They're hungry for it. There's a fresh supply of white people all the time in Orange County. Melanie, true? True facts, okay. That's what we need. We plug it back into the formula, okay? Who else buys portraits? Or no, I'm sorry. Who else needs a photographer? Weddings. Weddings and events. Those are the big ones, okay? All right, this is good. Wedding and events. I think if you guys have been paying attention, we might have a breakthrough. I feel one coming up, but I can never underestimate the intelligence of the people in the room. Okay, here we go. If we are shooting weddings, and we have a hard time selling weddings, okay, what can we do to sell weddings based on some of the things you've learned here? Apply one of the principles that we've learned on how you can sell more wedding photography. What do we need to do? So who do you sell wedding photos to?
Rich people.
Well, yes, but like, okay, let's go simpler. Couples. Who makes the decision between the couples? Wife. So you knew that already.
Of course.
How come? Why women? Why do we say women? I believe you're real. You're more sentimental? We could argue. What else?
Well, it's also the parents who have the money.
Okay, wait, hold on. Stay with what we're talking about. Why do women buy the photos or decide?
Social circle?
Huh?
For their social circle?
Social circles, yes.
They're usually planning the wedding.
They're usually because they just care more. Don't sell to the person who doesn't care. If you ask the guy, and I'm being very stereotypical here, there's some guys, pinky finger, like this matters, it needs to be like this. But I'm just saying, mostly the women care more about this. If the guy's like, well, I don't care, cousin Johnny's gonna do it, over my dead body. Why do you think the gowns cost so much and the tuxedos are rented? Think about it. Have you heard of the father who's given his son the tuxedo? Because it doesn't happen. See what I'm saying? Okay, you have to sell to the people who care the most, okay? Who cares the most? Okay, so we've established, more often than not, stereotypically, and I get it, stereotypical, internet's gonna give me a hard time. My children are gonna say, I'm gonna get canceled, fine. Okay, whoever cares the most, you have to sell to the person who cares the most. All right. Now, is there anyone who cares more than the bride? The parents. How would you sell to the parents?
Emotional appeal.
Yes. Now, here's an interesting thing. There are two people usually in the modern era. Who should we sell to? The father or the mother? It gets really interesting. It's really interesting now. We knew, nobody argued with me it was the wife, the bride, right? But why, when it came to the parents, it's a little split and got a little controversial.
Well, you know, it
Make
makes
an
me
argument.
think about the dynamic that you said earlier about your son got sold this service that he then came to you, who is the bank. So maybe we sell to the mom, but the bank is stereotypically going to be the father.
Okay, in a lot, which broad strokes here, everybody. Internet broad strokes. Do not cancel me for this, okay? Okay. In a lot of families, not all, clearly, dad usually makes the money. Mom decides where it gets spent. She's the CFO. He's the revenue generator. It's something like that. Kind of, at least in my family. Okay. So you can actually attack both. And so here's the thing. Usually, if you hit the father, I care about my daughter. I'll pay anything. Daddy's girl. I think you have an easier sell here. I think you have a tougher sell here. Because you know why? Because dads aren't that detail-oriented. Here's the price. My daughter loves it. I'm doing it. Mom's like, what's the package? What's it look like? Oh, it's a little micromanagement now. It's like, ah! You heard of Bridezilla and father, mother of the bride? They're based on some kind of truth there. So you can sell to both. I would focus on selling to the father. So from a pure marketing point of view, if you were in the wedding space, focus on dad. Give her the gift that will last a lifetime. Zales. You know, you do those Christmas spots, you know, driving through the snow, what do we? And then they turn the corner like, who's ever done that? I know no man who's ever done that in my life. Christmas lights around a tree in the forest. Like, shut up, get out of town. That is a commercial designed to get the woman to tell her husband, go do this for me. And to make us feel guilty and less than.
You know what's interesting is that you've been talking to us about the importance of data and overcoming cognitive bias in
Yes.
our own business, and yet it seems like you're appealing to that when you're like focusing on the dad and the mom. Is that true, or are you focusing on what's real?
That's a very good question, Mark.
Yeah.
This is just my observations. I do not personally believe this. Meaning, like, I've spent no time thinking about this. I have no daughters. My boys are too young to be married. I don't know, but I'm looking around. I try to be a good observer of life. You know, I asked Seth Godin, how do you describe what you do? You know, Seth Godin's written 21 books. He's written a blog post every day for 20 years. Seth Godin, top of the pyramid, okay, not the pier, top of the pyramid. He goes, I notice things. I'm like, damn, that's what a writer says. I notice things. So I observe things. I pay attention to people. So I'm just looking at, like, how does society work? I'm trying not to bring a conclusion before I look. It's hard to do, okay? This is a guess, and we'd have to test this hypothesis by trying campaign to see if we get more dads than moms to click. I could be wrong. And people hate me because I notice things and I say, this is, they're like, no, you can't put us in boxes like that, but I have to. I have to start to figure out patterns. I'm a person who pays attention to patterns. Anyways, so if you can sell photography, give the gift that lasts a lifetime, blah, 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 whatever the campaign is, you may sell more wedding photography services at a higher price point. And look, just by adding one customer profile, you've doubled your market size. And here's the cool thing. If you position yourself, right, not only to attract brides, but fathers, you may be moving into uncontested territory. There's the red ocean where everybody competes, and there's blue ocean where no one's at. I'm not inherently doing anything different in terms of the work itself, but I move where there's less competition. It's wide open. But the thing is, if you notice fishermen, we're very superstitious. When one person catches a fish, all the boats just descend on that same hole. I'm like, yo, our lines are gonna get tangled. What are you guys doing here? Find your own spot. That's how we work. But it's human nature to go where everyone else is going. So sometimes you just turn the corner and it's just wide open, no tangled lines, and all the fish, they move. They don't just sit in one spot. That area might be overfished. Okay. So let's get into events, okay? Now, if we were saying people who take sentimental portraits, how often do they have this need? How often is it reoccurring?
I guess I was thinking like Christmas time.
Yeah, you're talking about a different kind of photographer. You must be really rich. There's Orange County white rich and there's like Indian rich maybe. I don't know. Is there? Usually it's not that often. So when we say, and this is an important concept here, of fresh supply. The person wants to buy this over and over and over again. So you might find that shooting portraits is difficult unless, family portraits, unless all their friends live in Orange County and they're like, oh my God, you got to hire Melanie. She takes great portraits. And it spreads like, well, now I got to keep up with the Joneses, so they're doing it, we need to do it. But you're selling to a new customer every time. The best way is to sell more at a higher price to the same customer. Not new customers, because there's a cost to acquire new customers. There's a cost to offboarding customers. Make sense, everybody? Yeah. Okay, all right. So when we get into like weddings versus family portraits, well, do we get married more than one time? Not if we're smart. Not if we're committed. But maybe we get married a couple times, unless you're like, certain former presidents, like a lot of times, but still, that's still not a lot. It's like three times? 3 times-ish? Okay, so if I'm a photographer, I would prefer to probably shoot weddings because I have different people to buy. And yes, you can sell grandma's package to like take the family portraits of your grandson or granddaughter. That works. See how we're opening up the market now? That works, okay. And we probably can sell more wedding photos, but it's like, but events? When you talk about events, who's buying event photography?
Businesses.
Yes, and then we have a name for them. I believe they're called event organizers, right? Or planners, okay. They run the event, they need photography. And there's an emerging new market who might want to buy photos at events. Who is that? Who's the buyer of that?
Social media
Influencers.
Or publicity.
Speakers. I'm noticing now, I'm one of the few, I'm feeling like a minority now in more ways than one, when I don't have a dedicated photographer, videographer following me around everywhere. It seems strange because there's like a whole bunch of photographers, videographers with me today, but that's not my normal life. But when I go to speak, I'm like, oh, everybody has a person, right? Okay, so we're gonna talk about public speakers, okay? I don't wanna label them as influencers. So there's potential 2 buyers. There's probably more than that, but let's just say there's 2 buyers, right? Okay, the cool thing about events, fresh supply. They happen all the time, renewing supply. It is a beautiful thing. Public speakers, if you're any good, you do it all the time. This is a good thing, okay? So now we're gonna enter into I think I'm gonna land the plane here because I'm noticing the time. What are they buying? How do you sell to them, okay? We'll explain this model, and then you'll have to kind of extrapolate to what you sell, and hopefully you're smart enough and you'll say, oh, that gives me an idea, okay? You're all aware of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? There's usually like physical feelings of belongingness, love, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of hard to remember. I'll just help you out here, okay? Reading Hormozi's book, he says there's 3 reasons why people buy primarily: health, wealth, and relationships. So we're going to use that, and I'm trying this idea out. I want to say it's a fairly original idea. I'm going to mash the 2 together and help you remember things as to why people buy. At the bottom will be health. Up next will be wealth. Up next will be relationships. Okay, and there's 2 rungs above that. When I say health, it means like food, clothing, shelter, you will not live. Medicine, those kinds of things you need. But we, as a modern first world country, kind of, we start to move up. Third world or developing countries, they are still stuck at the bottom. They don't have clean water, they don't have toilets, and they have lots of problems. When we say wealth, I don't mean money, but I mean things like security. We have a home, we have a job, right? When we talk about relationships, like connection, right? Like we belong to a community. We have people that we love and people who care about us, friendship, those kinds of things. There's 2 things above this, and I'm just trying this out. The next one above this is status. That motivates a lot of people today. And then the very one on top, it maps closely to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is identity. Who am I? What is my potential? Self-actualization. So when we sell, it turns out we don't make a lot of money at the bottom. It's really weird. We need these things to survive, but we don't spend a lot of money there. We spend the most amount of money up here, or the most of our energy up here. So what we want to do is when we talk about a service like photography, we have to see how it relates to this. And here's what I mean. You need water to survive. You can starve longer than you can go without water. We know that. So why is it water is sold at so many different prices? It's really weird because they've understood how to sell water as part of status and identity. Okay, you guys know Voss water, Fiji water, some of the most expensive waters per ounce or whatever, right? Because why? They've sold you an idea. And you know there's another drink that's being sold as water from an Art Center alum. It's called Liquid Death. Liquid Death is not providing you status. It's providing you identity. You're a punk rock water drinker. Doesn't even make sense to me. It's stupid. It's so stupid. Murder your thirst. Okay. What? That's the product of genius, okay? Now, Rory Sutherland, who has an excellent TED Talk, Rory Sutherland, it's like a tongue twister for me. He says what we should do is instead of focusing on the quality of the product, because at this point quality is expected, you cannot differentiate via quality, focus on intangible value. This is a really radical concept. Perceived intangible value. This is what the work of genius marketing does. Liquid Death, LD, perceived I don't know why, but it's crazy. They're the fastest growing water brand. It's wild. The water tastes exactly the same. Okay? And Rory Sutherland talks about this, and he's got a book called Alchemy. I haven't read it yet, but I watched a TED Talk. He says that aside from a very small group of humans, they cannot tell the quality of the wine at all. And the greatest predictor of your enjoyment of wine is the price. Perceived intangible value. And price is communicated usually through three things. Literally, the price, the bottle shape itself and the materials, and the label. And guess what designers do? They do these two things. What do marketers do? They figure out what price we should sell it at so that you feel like it's a really good high quality wine. And then there's things like copywriting, which increases the experience. In Seth Godin's book, All Marketers Are Liars, we're complicit in the lie. We taste the wine before we actually drink it. We already know what it's going to taste like, you know. And they do like Penn and Teller's BS, their show about like fine dining. They're like serving people food from a tuna can, and the guy literally is telling his date, "I told you this stuff was good," and they described it as some exotic fish or crab or something, and they can't even tell the difference. So we know this. We tell ourselves a story. We're complicit in the lie. So you as a brander and a storyteller help them tell the story. You close the imagination gap for them, okay? Perceived intangible value. And this is the example that Rory gave, and I'm going to screw up the details of this. He says British Railway wanted to increase customer satisfaction, so they spent like $1.8 billion or something like that to improve the railway so it would get there a little bit faster. So they spent a lot of time and money to change the rail system so that it can get there like 20% faster. Yeah? He goes, if you were to give the people the customer survey in terms of their satisfaction, their increase in joy, it's pretty flat. He goes, you could save $8.8 billion if you just hired supermodels, men and women, to walk the train in really like nice clothing and just give free bottles of champagne. The increased value or perception of value goes up. So you really need to focus on perceived intangible value. These are concepts some of the world's richest companies have already understood. So if you study LVMH and everything they do, top to bottom, you'll understand why they're the first, Louis Vuitton is the first brand to break $20 billion in sales, becoming the most influential, profitable brand, luxury brand in the world, fashion brand. 20 billion. Status and identity. Who am I when I buy this? Who do I associate myself with? How do I have stories about self-acceptance and success? Or to say to whoever, I told you I was going to do it, and you didn't believe in me. You can buy a bag at Target for like 1/1000th of the price when you stay down here. Getting back to this, we're going to land the plane here on photography, okay? If you're going to sell photo or video services for an event, what do you have to sell? Okay? Think about this. So if we go into like any one of these things, like the to-do, the credit card, or the avoidance, right? What things are they trying to avoid doing, and what negative outcomes are they trying to prevent from happening? Okay, I'll write them over here, and we'll brainstorm them together, okay? I've done this before, like 1 hour before coming here, so it's still fresh in my mind, okay? Remember, let's just use this prompt here to make it simpler, okay? What kinds of things are event organizers or public speakers trying to avoid doing or negative outcomes? Okay, I can only write so fast, so have mercy on my pen. Okay, so here we go. Go ahead and list it.
Bad photography.
Okay, bad photos. Okay, keep going.
Perception of the event as those boring.
Boring events. I'm an event organizer. What kind of outcomes am I trying to avoid or things I'm avoiding doing?
Perception of like low attendance, yeah.
Okay, low attendance, what does that mean?
Like want it to look like a lot of people are there.
Oh, okay, low attendance. Okay, I see what you're saying. Now, if you're stuck, try to think about this as outcomes they're trying to avoid that have nothing to do with what we do. Notice something, this is beautiful, I love this, okay? Remember, we sell photos and videos, so all our problems are around photos and videos. But what kind of other things are they trying to avoid? If you look at this, personal, professional, emotional, financial, or this, all things that they want to do, build customer base, you know, or how to make more money, try to look at it from a business point of view now. See what happens. Remember, it's not what you want, it's what they want. So if you're a speaker, what do you want or what are you trying to avoid? So you can take what you want and just flip it to the negative and you say, I'm trying to avoid this. Okay? So go ahead.
Maintaining lower prices. They want higher prices, so they want more quality.
Okay. So I think there's like a lot of words in there already, like lame event, you know, professionalism, all that kind of stuff, right?
As a speaker or organizer.
Okay, you're a speaker, what do you want?
I want to capture the great moments, not lose them. So just having someone document everything, they can then grab those.
And why is that important?
Again, for marketing or content. Or
Okay. Angel, you're a content creator, right? What is the most difficult thing about content creation? You know, easy. Just whatever is the most natural thing. Who here creates content on a regular? What is the most difficult thing about creating content, guys?
Coming up with
What to post, having enough to post, keeping people engaged. Because the event happens once. But we have to be able to keep talking about it as if it's like this long-lived thing. You understand? There's things about like inconsistency in quality, like, hey, it's off-brand for me. I don't have any good shots with me interacting with the fans. Like if I threw something at you and it's a moment, did anybody capture that? No, you just see another headshot of me. That's not, so I need a lot of stuff so I can keep talking about it. Event organizers need that to happen because they want the experience to last as long as possible. They might miss a moment when they get an emotional breakthrough with somebody. They need to do that so that becomes part of the community that they build and also be able to promote and generate interest in future events. So what they do is they cut together a sizzle reel of all the emotional highs so that you get excited about it. So they're trying to really avoid a couple different things. They need to sell out. So not selling out is a disaster for them. Okay? Because once you book the venue and the food and all the staff, you spent all your money. Until you get to a certain point, you're going to go in the red. So everybody understand that now? Okay. So now, without writing all that stuff up here, here's how a typical photographer would approach them. You want to buy photos? Do you need photos for your event? And usually what happens there? It just dies. It just dies. But if you had a conversation with them and say, how much social engagement did you get before, during, and after your event? And they're going to describe during, peak, after, none, before, not a lot. Okay? So first you focus on what they want, which is, so during the event it's peak. What is peak for you? We never take for granted what peak means. They're like, 100 people posted. And how many people went? 4,000. So by my math, that's like, 2.5%. Is that good for you? That gets them to think, it's not good for me. Don't tell them it's not good. Just ask them, is that what you want? Is that good for you? Like, no. It would be better if it was, 400? At least. What could you do to promote people sharing while they're at the event? Now you get into a brainstorming session with them. And eventually, you know what they're going to say? We need more photography, we need more video, and we need to be able to share it with people right away. And that's interesting. Are you open open-minded to exploring this with someone like me? Absolutely. Tell me what you got. This is where you need to show the receipts. So here's what I did before and after. Here's what I did before and after, the numbers. And we were just talking about the day of. But here's, and you use one of those magic word phrases, most clients like you start to understand that they want the event to last longer. And now what we do is we have a media package and we give them your team, your attendees. Here's what I've noticed. In some of the events that I go to where they're thinking like this, they have a QR code, they have a professional photographer or photographers, and they're shooting all day long for the entirety of the event. You no longer have to worry about that as an attendee. You go on the site and you pull those images down. Guess who's sharing their photos? On LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram. You're getting people to market for you, to their communities. That's valuable. Photography is the vehicle in which I do that, but I'm not selling that. I'm selling social engagement before, during, and after. I'm selling sold out events and venues that look premium. That's what I'm selling. Then now, they don't even care what cameras you're using or how many guys or gals you have on your team or what lenses you're using because you're selling them what they want. Make sense? Okay, so a lot of you are running around selling website design, logo design, UX, UI, but that's not what we want. So we're trying to avoid bad outcomes, and if you can think about that or avoid doing things, right? Now, I'll tell you something. If somebody's like, hey, Chris, you want to hire a video editor to cut your social media things? I'm like, nah, not really. Like, how much of a pain in the ass is it for you to do and not be consistent? Oh, I bought that. But people are selling me video services all the time, which I reject all the time. Make sense? Reframe it through this lens of health, wealth, relationships, predominantly, hopefully, focus on the top 3. Use the prompt of things I'm trying to avoid through the lens of the buyer and not through yours. Have a conversation with them to see what they're trying to avoid. Think about who's really buying it, and if you can find someone who signs a check who's not the actual buyer, even better. Open up your market, less competition. Those are good things for you to do. And the goal for you is to sell more to the same clients at a higher price. So you have to get really smart about what kinds of things are they doing all the time, and you invent solutions based on whatever problems you encounter. If you can do that, I think you're going to be able to get more clients and to make more money. Okay, I didn't cover any of the other topics. Completely. I dipped my toes in there. Before I get out of here, Mo's going to ask us a question.
So my question to you is, how do we get better at brainstorming and not fall victim to answers that aren't really going to move us forward?
So if we said, what is a public speaker trying to avoid doing, and what is a public speaker avoiding negative outcomes, that might have helped you. You just have to remember, this is not about you, it's about them. So the number one thing that we said is who. And then we write what we do, the service that we provide, relative to who. What matters to them, okay? I'm sort of lactose intolerant. I try not to eat carbs and sugar, and I don't drink alcohol or smoke. If you sell me any of those things, I'm not buying. You're gonna, well, people love sugar, they love ice cream. My kids are like, Dad, we want to go to the $12 ice cream store. I'm like, okay, I'm buying. See? But they're like, don't you want something? No. Look at all these flavors. No, you don't understand. So that's like you selling your creative service to someone who can't buy it. You have to understand what motivates them. Okay? Now here's the really cool thing. Maybe you heard a concept today, you're like, wow, that's really cool. I didn't know that, I need to think about this. And you're not gonna read the 10 or 12 books that I've read to get here. You're not interviewing those people. But you could just ask GPT, hey, I heard this concept today. I don't really fully understand it. Explain it to me in a way that you would for a 5th grader and give me plenty of real world examples. Please do not make up anything, right? And then you can ask it like, what is the Harvard Business School take on this? What would Seth Godin say on this? You just need a little bit of information to ask it and it will teach you. Teach me this concept. Create a playlist of articles, books, videos that I can watch so that I can learn this in 4 weeks and I have an hour a day to dedicate. It'll create a custom curriculum for you. This is the nuts part of this, right? All you have to do is know what to ask. It will do it for you, okay? So I think what we do is, here's the reality of it. If you're a man, woman, non-binary, if you're a person of color, if you're white, Hispanic, whatever it is, you think all the world thinks like you, and that's the first mistake that you make. I believe I can sell to white women in Orange County. Clearly, I'm not one. I also think I can sell to this group because you just watch them. You observe and you pay attention. And you have to do what we think creatives are really good at, but I think they're terrible at this. Empathy. That's a valuable skill, but we don't apply it. We think empathy is something else. What is it like to walk in their shoes, to look at the world through their eyes and feel what they feel? If you can do that, this is not a problem. So your instincts are just to pull it to your world, pull it to your world. What I want? And if I do premium photography, guess what the answer is? They want a premium event. It just works like that. Okay? So if you can help them understand what their pain points and challenges are and you address it, you're going to do really well. I'm going to give you this one last thing as you're trying to like create content and marketing materials. Let me use the green marker here. Okay? When you're creating content, if you can do these 3 things, you'll do really well. And this is from Hormozi's book, $100 Million Leads. Number 1, can you help them understand what the problem is? You highlight the problem. You magnify it. Okay? How does that look in the world of event photography or videography? The problem is, I don't know how to use it, but like, what's the opposite of sold out?
Undersold?
Undersold? You tired of undersold events? Oh, yeah. You know? Did you know the conversation's happening on social before, during, and after? And the photos and assets look like this? You want to avoid that outcome? So you just really talk about the problem. And the geniuses that are marketers who do purely on perceived intangible value, the example I love to share with people is Dr. Squatch is a soap that I never considered buying. And then they ran these super funny viral ads, and there's a guy in the woods, and he takes a plate and he throws it on a rock. Psh! He goes, "You're not a dish, you're a man." And I'm like, what kind of non sequitur is that? Of course I'm not a dish. He goes, but you know what? These body washes use chemicals like this, this, and that. They're commercial detergents. They think you're a dish. I'm like, damn it, I'm not a dish. How dare you put these detergents on me? I want soap. And I never buy soap. They created a problem that doesn't even exist. We make soap the old-fashioned way, the way soap was made 2,000 years ago. And then they created a new problem. Don't let big soap tell you what to do. I'm like, damn it, what is big soap? And they're not going to tell me what to do. I'm mad now, it's big soap. What, Irish Spring? What are you doing to me, Irish Spring? Dove, F you. And so they use language that we're familiar with. Big tobacco, big pharma, big oil. Apparently, if you put the word big in front of anything, at least in America, you're evil. They're co-opting language. So they're like, big soap, motherfucking big soap. And now I'm 2 years into subscription. I have more bars of soap than I know what to do with. My wife's like, what are we doing here? Why do I keep getting these bills? Babe, I'm not a dish. Please don't treat me like one. And smell this. 1,000-year-old recipe. So create a problem, highlight the problem, make them feel the problem. As soon as I know the problem, guess what? I want a solution. Because remember, the pain. What is the pain? And if you touch on the right person, they know the pain already. They automatically say, yes, yes. You don't have to convince them of anything. Okay? So problem, number 2, is give them a sample. We'll refer to it as like the Costco effect, you know, like when you go to the Costco and they give you a little sample, and you wind up buying more stuff than you need. Because once you taste something, you want a little bit more of it because now we feel like we're like losing if we don't get that. So there's a lot of examples of this, like freemium with like level up, you know, where you can buy premium features and the baseline is free. So give people a sample of the product. In the book, Hormozi illustrates it this way, like if there's steps 1 through 8, give them step 1 for free. Okay? Number 3 is give them a tool. So problem, sample, and a tool. A tool is almost always the digital thing. So you can use it like a shot list for your next wedding or event. And by filling out the shot list, you're like, oh my God, I don't want to do any of this work. I have a problem now that I'm trying to avoid. This is why videos that are super technical create customers. We're going to teach you how to automate your whole pipeline using JavaScript, and you're going to be able to do this and this. And you show them all the fancy stuff they can do. Like, oh my God, this is great. Step 1, open up your command terminal. Like, I'm out, bro. I am out right now. Warning, you may destroy your computer. So make sure you follow every instruction and make sure you back up your whole hard drive. I don't want to do that. I'm going to call Johnny Tech right now. I don't want to do that. So give them a tool. It usually is digital. So think about your industry, your studio, whatever it is. What kind of tool can you share with them? It's probably a part of your process. So now what you can do is you can design a beautiful funnel, okay? The beautiful funnel looks like this. Awareness, you have this problem? If you have this problem, guess what? We have a sample to provide to you. All you have to do is use this word, sample me, or something like that, and I will follow up with you in your DMs. I'll DM you the resource, the tool or sample that you're going to get. By experiencing some of that, they're going to desire, like, what's the next thing? I don't want to do all this work. I'm going to hire you. That's how you can do this. Does that make sense? And it's the easiest, permission-based, non-aggressive, non-violent way you can turn strangers into friends and friends into customers. The stranger's like, I have a problem. I'm not a dish. Guess what? You want a small sample? Buy 1, get 1, buy 3, get 3, whatever it is. We'll give you 3 bars of soap. Wow, freaking amazing. Get me on a subscription. I don't have to go to a store anymore. I'll tell you one last little thing, and I'm going to wrap it here, is I went to a dermatologist in Santa Monica, where I used to live on the west side, and the pharmacist had done something I'd never experienced before. Not the pharmacist, the dermatologist had done something I'd never had experienced before. After the doctor checked me out, wrote the prescription, I go to do my copay or whatever it is, and the person behind the desk like, would you like us to ship this to you? Of course. Never in my life has anybody ever asked me that. I have to go to CVS or something. Like, we'll ship it to you, be there in 2 days. Would you like us to give you a refill in 6 months? Fudge. Shaquille, you know what I'm talking about? Who does that? They just found a problem and solved it for me so I don't have to think. So then I become their marketing mouthpiece, and that's what you do. Imagine, again, if you had one customer, what would you have to do for this one customer such that they fall in love with everything you do, that they become your biggest advertiser? That's the second part to this question that Alex had asked. If you could only have one customer, who is the source of all future customers, how would you have to serve them? What would you have to deliver? How much above and beyond would you have to go such that they're so delighted? Design your business around that. Most of us don't want to do that because of one thing. We just don't charge enough. So that we can't afford to, and we feel taken advantage of, or we're like, you know, a doormat. People are stepping all over us. But if you charge a Louis Vuitton price, a Christian Dior price, well, you can provide any kind of service at that point. And they're going to be so happy to get it from you. And they tell all their friends, and their friends tell friends, and their friends have friends, and you just keep going like that. You can only service so many really good clients in a year anyways. Do this right the first time. You don't have to worry about this funnel. You don't have to worry about much of this anymore. Okay? All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.